It's time for Media Watch, and we are joined by Haxi Myers-Belkin. Good evening, Haxi.
Hi, good evening.
You're starting out with our top story, Kenya, which is holding a repeat election tomorrow.
Absolutely. So I'd like to begin with a tweet by Martina Stevis. Now, she's the Africa correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Kenya election body says vote tomorrow is to proceed as planned, despite, and this is quite nicely put, court gyrations, more of that later. Opposition supporters at Uhuru Park disagree. Now, what are all these people waiting for? Well, of course, an address by the man himself, opposition leader Raila Odinga. Now, Odinga announced that he would be withdrawing from the repeat election 2 weeks ago on the 10th of October, stating his belief that it looked like the upcoming election would be riddled with irregularities. And he backed that up once again on Wednesday with a call for a mass boycott of Thursday's election. And he also announced that his National Super Alliance, NASA, had transformed from a political movement to a resistance movement. And unsurprisingly, his supporters picked up on those words. One of his supporters tweeting hashtag Uhuru Park, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. Now, Odinga did call repeatedly for a peaceful protest, but the NASA coalition tweeted its own slightly ominous message. The primary responsibility, if the worst occurs, lies squarely with Kenyatta. Now, that worst is, of course, a reference to the post-election violence in 2007, where some 1,300 people lost their lives and over 500,000 people were displaced. Now, there are reports of running battles between police and pro-Odinga supporters in the city of Kisumu, Odinga's heartland. But Maggie Fick, who's the East Africa Deputy Bureau Chief for Reuters, says that by and large, Odinga supporters are listening to his call for calm. She quotes a motorcycle taxi driver in Kisumu saying that we will follow what Odinga said. Tomorrow we can't vote. No protests tomorrow. We'll be in our houses. Now, Delano, this is the sort of headline you see across Kenyan news media today. The reason that Thursday's vote is going ahead is because not enough Supreme Court judges turned up for a hearing on whether or not to postpone the vote. Only 2 out of 7 of the Supreme Court judges, in fact, turned up. And Twitter users have their theories. One man called Pavel says with 2 judges indisposed, one unavailable and one under house arrest, Kenya's Supreme Court has basically been disbanded by force. Strong stuff. Equally strong stuff from this man. Yesterday, the bodyguard of Kenya's Deputy Chief Justice was shot. That was a warning shot for her and every Supreme Court judge. Hashtag mafia tactics. And we hear from the woman herself, Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu. She says that after her bodyguard was shot, she was effectively placed under house arrest while they investigated the attack. Many people on Twitter and herself, of course, insinuating that was a method to keep her away from the Supreme Court.
Now, Haxi, on to another story very quickly about that's making waves on the internet, the rising tide of dissent from Republicans against the US President Donald Trump.
Yes, and I like this CNN headline very much indeed. Jeff Flake just flew a kamikaze mission against Donald Trump. Republican Senator for Arizona, Jeff Flake, has attacked US President Donald Trump in the strongest terms, describing him as reckless, outrageous, and undignified. He's also spoken out against what he calls the GOP's complicity in Trump's reckless leadership style. And he's not the first GOP dissenter either. As we read in this piece in the New York Times, he joins a growing list that so far includes George W. Bush, Bob Corker, and John McCain. Now, this piece asks if anyone else is likely to put their head above the parapet. But Flake's fellow Arizona senator, meanwhile, has offered words of support to Flake. Thank you to my dear friend at Jeff Flake for your honourable service to the state of Arizona. I'm not sure Trump's going to like that.
I doubt he is. Haxi, thank you very much for that. Haxi Myers-Belkin with Media Watch. Time for